Each and every one of us has been born to live a life that is filled with light, that is filled with brilliance. Not just like the little brilliance, but the big brilliance with the uppercase B. The kind of brilliance that is not only made of fairy dust, the kind of brilliance that's made of stardust, the kind of brilliance that is immense and amazing and profound, just like a diamond. Just like a diamond. There are, according to the jewelers and gemologists, 4 different characteristics that you look at when you examine a diamond to determine its value. And over these next 3 weeks, we're going to look at these 4 characteristics and see truly how they are a metaphor for our human beingness, for our humanity. The first 2 that we're going to look at are today, and that is color and carat. So color, I feel so funny because Star is this jeweler, but she knows what I'm saying. Okay, so if you have any questions later, just see Star. But yeah, the color is really one of the primary ways that jewelers look, or a gemologist looks at a diamond to determine its value. And when they look at a color, they're looking for 3 specific things. And the first one is the reflection. When a light hits the surface of a diamond, a portion of it is reflected back. So the more facets or straight planes that a diamond has, the more light gets reflected back. And I think that's perfect for life, because if you just think about it, if we have more facets for joy, we're going to reflect more joy back out. And an example would be if we're walking down the street, or if we're here in this spiritual community and somebody walked up to us or walked by us and gave us a smile, what do? We smile back. We reflect back to them what they have put out. So if I were really down and depressed and not feeling very well, you could tell me the funniest joke on the planet, and you might get a hump for me because I didn't have very many facets for joy. You know when somebody tells you, you go, huh? You know, I don't have very many facets for joy, so I'm not going to respond in the same way that something was delivered. But if I have a lot of facets for joy, I'm going to be beaming out there with you. The second factor is refraction. Those rays of light that don't bounce off the surface of a diamond actually enter or travel to the center of the diamond and bounce off its internal walls. And I really like this, because what it's saying is that God light, that bright light, comes into us and starts pinging and zinging as divine ideas in our hearts and minds. It starts going all around inside of us, refracting this way and refracting this way. So eventually, even in the darkest parts of us, there is light. Makes sense, right? Dispersion is the third one. As light exits the diamond, dispersion causes white light to be separated into multiple colors. This light is referred to as the fire of the diamond. How many of you have been on fire with something? On fire with an idea, on fire with a project, on fire with some news. You're just on fire so much that your enthusiasm doesn't just leak out of you. It beams. Your vibrancy is beaming out of you because you're on fire. Your intelligence is beaming out of you because you're on fire. Your joy is beaming out of you because you're on fire. Even if you're on fire about peace, your peace is beaming out of you with a radiant, radiant way of being. Because you're on fire. When we are at our highest levels of understanding, knowing that our brilliance with the capital B is emanating as fire from us, whoo, that's when we're on our game. A family went to Europe on a vacation, and they took their 6-year-old daughter Sarah with them, and over the course of the vacation they went on tour for any number of cathedrals, and in each cathedral they had the opportunity to see beautiful stained glass windows. Well, they came back, and Sarah was in Sunday school one day, And the teacher said, now class, who knows what saints are? And Sarah was like, pick me. Pick me, pick me. I know. Well, the teacher was surprised by her enthusiasm. And so, of course, she picked her and she said, Sarah, please tell us what the saints are. And Sarah said, saints are the people light shines through. Saints are people light shines through. So think about yourself as a metaphor for a diamond, being a person who or what light shines through. Over the course of our lifetimes, we have seen and encountered many saints. We have even sometimes been considered a saint ourselves. And I'm not talking about the kind of saint like this. Oh, Uncle Jack, you know, he was a saint. He lived with Aunt Maybelle for 52 years. I'm not talking about that kind of saint. The light of God shines in me. The light of God shines in you. No exceptions. No exceptions. I am a saint. Say that with me, please. I am a saint. Now, turn to somebody by you and say, you are a saint. You are a saint. You really are. You really are a saint. Now, of course, the whole trick, if spirituality had any tricks to it, the whole trick would be remembering this. The wise master Lao Tzu says, every human being's essential nature is perfect and flawless. But after years of immersion in the world, we easily forget our roots and take on a counterfeit nature. So the big question for us when we think about the color of a diamond or the colors of our lives, are we remembering our brilliance? And not only are we remembering our brilliance, are we remembering to illuminate, to be on fire about our brilliance? So let's talk about carrots. And we're talking about carrots as the weight and not carrots as the diet. Mae West had a famous saying, and she would say it was something like, I don't do diets. The only kind of carrots I'm concerned about are the number in a diamond. So carrots mean weight. So size matters when it comes to how much or how big we are allowing our illumination to be. Metaphysically, carrots can be represented as faith. So the bigger our faith, the more goodness we experience. The bigger our faith, the more we allow ourselves confidently to shine. The bigger our faith, the more value we have in life. There are lots of little teeny tiny diamonds, but it's the rarer number of big ones that are more valuable. So as we think about carrots as faith, we can open up a whole new world to ourselves. Here are some questions. What carrot is your conviction that you are a walking, talking manifestation of spirit? For as you see yourself, or as I see myself, or we see ourselves as walking, talking manifestations of spirit, we can do anything. What carrot is your certainty in yourself as a beloved expression of God? Recognizing ourselves as a beloved expression of God adds value to our lives. What carrot is your belief in the allness, the wholeness, and the perfection of the divine? It's easy for us to do this when things are going good. Yes, I'm a walking, talking manifestation of spirit. Yes, I'm a beloved expression of God. Yes, I believe in the allness, perfection, and wholeness of the divine. And then something happens. And when that something happens, then we tend to fall into or forget or buy into those appearances of lack. And we forget our true value. We actually begin to then, when we forget, to immerse ourselves in fear, in a consciousness of fear. I went to the internet to research how many times in the Bible you could find the phrase, fear not, or be not afraid. And I was so excited because the first couple hits I got were 365. And I thought, isn't that brilliant? Those Bible writers knew what they were doing. They had a fear not or be not afraid for every day of the year. Isn't that amazing? Well, it turns out it was a calendar somebody made and was trying to sell. And then there are only actually 30 statements in the Bible that say, be not afraid. But in the Christian scriptures, in the New Testament, Jesus said it 7 times. Matthew, 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 Mark, Mark, Luke, and John. Be not afraid. And here's some things I found fascinating about that. The first thing I find fascinating is that he said it 7 times. Metaphysically, 7. It stands for spiritual perfection. We are being reminded to be in our conviction for spiritual perfection. The second fascinating thing I found out about that is that he said it 7 times total, but 5 times to his disciples. Metaphysically, the disciples represent those 12 faculties of mind, those 12 spiritual abilities, or in unity we call it the 12 powers that are in us. So we could say that Jesus was talking to us. Now Jesus isn't here, so we've got to go metaphysical. Metaphysically, that Christ light, that illumination, that brilliance is refracting, dispersing, and reflecting into our consciousness 5 times, which is a very holy number in itself, 5 times to remind us that we have power, we have understanding, we have wisdom, we have zeal, we have life, we have the power to eliminate, we have all these powers within us. The third thing I thought was fascinating was most of the New Testament was originally written in Greek. There were very few pockets of Aramaic, but almost all of it was written in Greek. And in the Greek language, there's a grammar rule. I know you can hardly wait. A grammar rule. Really? Yes, really. A grammar rule called the present imperative. We don't have it in English. But in Greek, there's a grammar rule called present imperative. So when a command is given, a commandment is given, it's true not only in this moment, so we better do it right away, but we need to continue to do it in the future. So it's not only for today, but we need to continue to do it in the future. So if it's be not afraid right now, and don't need to be afraid in the future. And it worked both positive and negative. So when Jesus said, love your neighbor, he wasn't just saying, love your neighbor for today, do your forgiveness work with your neighbor today, resolve whatever issue you have with your neighbor today. He was saying, love your neighbor today and every day from here to kingdom come. So when he says, be not afraid, he wasn't saying, give up your fear right now. He was saying, give up your fear right now and don't be afraid tomorrow. Don't be afraid the next day. In fact, you never have to worry about being afraid again. A present imperative. In English, we don't have that. In English, we hear as little kids, our parents would tell us, be still. They didn't mean be still forever and ever. They really meant be still right now. Be still right now. Or be good. We would engage in a better behavior, but we had no intention of engaging in that better behavior forever and ever. But in Greek, with the present imperative, it was be not afraid right now. And you don't have to ever worry about being afraid in the future. That idea is worth its weight in diamonds. So let's have a little recap. Color. I am a saint. I reflect, refract, and disperse the light of God. Let's say that together. I am a saint. I reflect, refract, disperse the light of God. Carat. The bigger my faith, the bigger my conviction, my certainty and belief. If Jesus was convicted, I can be too. If Jesus was certain, I can be too. If Jesus had trusted in his belief, then I can too. So if Jesus was convicted, we can too. If Jesus is certain, we can be certain too. If Jesus trusted his belief, we can trust that belief too. I am a walking, talking manifestation. Let's just read it all together. I am a walking, talking manifestation of Spirit. I am a beloved expression of God. The allness, wholeness, and perfection of God is working in me, through me, and as me in this moment, and as a continuous, steady practice in the future. This is really important. This is really important to know and remember. Because when we leave that job or lose that job, we can remember that there's another better job. When our finances go south, we can remember that the allness and the perfection is in that experience, and our good is going to continue to come to us. If an illness presents itself in our lives, we can know that everything is going to be okay, that this is an absolutely brilliant experience we're having for renewal and rebirthing in our body. When a relationship ends or someone that's beloved to us dies, we can rest in the knowledge and the conviction and the certainty that there is still, even though we have heartache, that there is still an abundance of great love all around us. And when we die, not if we die, but when we die, we can be certain and convicted and trusting in the belief that our soul will continue to flow in the eternity of all time. We have the capacity in us to be on fire. We have the capacity in us to have a great number of carrots in our faith. Jesus had oodles of them. And whatever is, will be. And whatever will be, is. So let's take all of this now into meditation.